This is
Social Darwinism. Social Darwinism was the belief that the wealthy were wealthy and the poor were poor due to natural selection. Many promoted an every man for themselves economy, survival of the fittest. The government should not interfere with those who are struggling to survive.
It's social Darwinism, a view of America that says there isn't a problem that can't be solved by making sure that the rich get richer and the poor get poor. It requires no sacrifice on the part of those of us who've won life's lottery and doesn't consider who our parents were or the education received or the right breaks that came at the right time. Today, at a time when American families are facing more risk and greater insecurity than they ever have in recent history, a time when they have fewer resources and a weaker safety net to protect them against those insecurities. People of all backgrounds in America want a nation where we share life's risks and rewards with each other. And when they make laws that will spread this opportunity to all who are willing to work for it, they expect our judges to uphold these laws, not tear them down because of their political predilections.
Political machines. There was corruption in politics known as political machines. Included in these political machines was graft, which was also known as bribes for vote. Tammany Hall started in New York City as a social club and later developed into power centers to coordinate the needs of businesses, immigrants, and underprivileged for votes on election day.
As a result of urbanization, cities started becoming overcrowded, which led to more harsh living conditions, such as no sanitation system, crime rate increasing, and people being forced to live in tenements. A myriad of people were forced to live in tenements, such as the one shown here. Lack of sanitation led to pollution and the spread of diseases. Working conditions. The assembly line. As labor had been moved from fields to factories, the assembly line was essential to mass production. Work days were very long, with hardly any breaks. Workers included men, women, and children. As workers began to demand better work conditions, they formed labor unions. Labor unions, such as the IWW, are formed by workers in order to obtain more fair working conditions. Some popular labor unions during the Gilded Age are the Knights of Labor and the American Federation of Labor.
Positive effects of urbanization. Urbanization helped spread ideas of new innovations. These new innovations helped transport become faster and more efficient. Urbanization helped create jobs and made sure there would be no shortage of employees. This also helped develop the assembly line used in the Ford factory. This made production much more efficient and less costly.
Back in Detroit, Henry Ford wondered how he could bring the price of the Model T down to where everybody could buy it. He figured that the more cars he made and sold, the cheaper he could sell each one. And he went to work on this idea. In those days, each car was built from the frame up on stationary wooden horses. There was a different crew for each car, and the same crew stayed on the car until it was finished. That meant duplication of effort and a lot of time wasted. So they tried moving the men from car to car. Each man had a special job to do, and as soon as he finished it, he moved on to the next car and did the same thing there. That was better, but it still took 12 and a half hours to assemble each Model T. Henry Ford watched it for a while, then he had an inspiration. Instead of moving the men past the cars, why not move the cars past the men? So on one hot August morning, they tried it that way. plucky young fellow put a rope over his shoulder, and Henry Ford called, "Let's go." And at that very moment, as the workmen began to fasten the parts onto the slowly moving car, the assembly line was born, a technique that was to revolutionize mass production all over the world. Once they found that the idea would work, they began to improve it, refine it. They rolled a chassis down a single line of track, pushing it from crew to crew. And the more expert they became at this new method, the faster the cars came off the assembly line, and the price of the Model T began to drop.
This is how the other half lives? Yes, sir. And you don't know the half of it. We live in dirty, run-down, and overpacked tenements. All of us, in one floor or even a room, more than 3 to 4 families live here. It's so packed, and we have barely any ventilation. And you expect us to live like her? No, sir. But however, you see all the floors and the streets? This urbanization is killing us. We need to do something about it, sir. Sorry.